Hi everybody, my name's Caleb.
Hi everybody, my name's Derek.
Welcome to my channel.
Except now it's my channel because this is the response video. But I'm not going to show my face anymore because I have a microphone and it's like double the work to try to sync up the microphone with the video when you're doing a response bit by bit. So I'm going to be using my little background thinger. But I also wanted to settle this issue. It looks like someone fucking punched him in the face. Because, like, okay, so he's sitting at an angle, right? So I'm going to go to different angles. And, like, does my nose do that? He comments on this later. But, I mean, he fucking knows. He knows his nose looks like that. And it's not a Jew thing. It's like someone punched him in the face. Right? Right? Like, there's no angle. I'm like a tiny part Jewish at least, so it shouldn't matter that much. Anyway.
So, you can probably tell by the description on the video and the title what this is going to be about.
My descent into the alt-right pipeline. And that's basically the gist of it, is that at some point he finds some Molyneux videos, and this just led him as if via a pipeline, as if down a funnel, with absolutely no agency or volition on his own part. He just got sucked into a pinpoint that goes closer and closer towards the pinpoint of fascism.
I fell down the alt-right rabbit hole.
It takes a long fucking time to tell the story. And, like, what I'm looking for are the arguments, right? Because he says that Molyneux was his, like, gateway drug into all of this, right? So surely he understands not an argument as a meme, right? He talks all about the memes.
That I saw the memes.
So that's what I want to know. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking through this whole fucking video. It's really long, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, so where is the argument? But of course, he's going to start by talking about how he was in high school, and in high school he was very interested in the environment and social justice.
One thing that was always true for me throughout high school and when I was younger was I was always much a very liberal person, in the sense that any young person is. I believed in protecting the environment. I believed in giving social justice to everyone.
But he had an anti-authoritarian edge because he listens to System of a Down.
When I was in high school, I listened to bands like the Dead Kennedys and System of a Down and Muse and all these bands that had a revolutionary, anti-authority, pushing back against oppression, lyrics to their songs. And I listened to the lyrics, and I was really in tune with that.
But he read the lyrics. He actually read the lyrics, so it really meant a lot to him. And there was some sustainability trip in high school that he didn't go on, but, the fact that he almost went on it is important enough to fucking waste my time listening to this shit.
My senior year in high school, I wanted to go. I got accepted, but ended up not going to this program in India. It was like a sustainable agriculture type thing, and that was really interesting to me, and I pursued those things. And
anyway, he goes to college, he drops out of college, and he feels like a loser at home, and he's looking for a meaning, right? And he finds Molyneux videos.
I got depressed, I got lost, I was looking for the wrong kinds of validation, and I ended up flunking out. And eventually, as I was looking through all these videos, this YouTuber popped up in my sidebar, and it had an interesting, like, clickbaity title, and it was something about the truth about therapy, or it was something to do with depression and self-help and bettering yourself, and it looked interesting to me. I clicked on it, and it was this Canadian YouTuber, and I think you guys know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, they know. It's Molyneux. I told them already. Which is kind of like my story, except I graduated from college and then I was like, oh, I didn't like plan on having a job or whatever. So I also found Molyneux in kind of a similar situation, except not being a college like dropout. So anyway, there's some parallels between my story and his that make me, kind of interested in this. So on some level, I'm intrigued. But again, what I'm looking for is the argument. When do we get to the fucking argument?
Stefan resonated with me. Stefan resonated with me because Stefan had shared the same experiences that I had shared. Stefan, he had a traumatic childhood. He had issues with his mother. He had issues with the rest of his family. He had issues with the society around him. He was angry with the society around him that it never stepped in and did anything to help him, to help him escape from that childhood pain and that trauma that he carried with him. And these were all things that I felt, and it rang so true to me. And then he started talking about how he was able to get out of it, and and basically like he blamed a lot of his situation on liberalism and this sort of just the culture that we live in today, the culture that we enjoy.
This is one of the reasons I'm not being very nice in this response, is because here's somebody who claims to be really interested in Molyneux videos, and what he's doing is engaging in this really petty, emotional sort of manipulation. He talks about how Molyneux resonated with him. He's not talking about the actual underlying arguments. And that might be genuine. It might be that he came on to Molyneux a little bit later and then was into these more psychological self-help things, and then later on found the more philosophical content, which is, I think, is, the narrative he's saying. Whereas my perspective was backwards. Like, for me, I found his ideas first, and then later on he did videos related to psychology that I thought were kind of interesting also. But for me, it was primarily a gateway from the philosophical angle. So that might be where our difference of perspective, a lot of it's coming from. But I've kind of let the cat out of the bag. I don't think this guy is genuine. I don't think either he consumed all this content and didn't process any of the arguments, or he's just pretending that he listened to all these things and he's trying to paint a narrative where, it starts with Molyneux and then funnels into all of these things. And he's using language to depict things in such a way that the viewer has absolutely no responsibility in digesting information and in thinking critically and in applying any sort of ideas.
So as I started to fall for his self-help stuff more and more, in my mind, I set him up as an authority figure.
And, maybe he's genuine and all of this is just true of himself, but I don't know. I guess I really have no way to prove it one way or another.
In high school, I went through all different sorts of ideologies and different ideas, some, conspiracy theories here and there, some things that were real, different religions.
If we take a step back and look at his channel, he has 2 videos on it, one that he made just about a week ago. And all these subscribers out of nowhere, they love this bedroom feminist style video. It's just so real, so raw, whatever. And look at his Twitter, and the history doesn't go back anywhere before like 2019. It's a bunch of ContraPoints videos, and he's got a pinned tweet from ContraPoints in his comment section. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I can't prove this. I don't really have a lot to go on. So maybe he's a genuine guy. He's actually telling us what he actually thinks, but just the way this is delivered and his entire just story, how I keep saying narrative, right? And I guess that's, I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite by depicting it that way. But again, I'm not insulting my viewer. You can judge for yourself whether you think this guy is for real or if you think he's just a fucking shill. But anyway, what I hate so much about this is, for Molyneux to talk about his own personal experiences on his channel, and then to have that be the only thing that this guy goes off of in order to criticize his ideas is kind of exactly the sorts of manipulative bullshit that Stefan Molyneux so consistently criticizes and calls out. And that's what makes me think he's just not somebody who really listens to that sort of content. So, and this whole idea that Stefan Molyneux hates society because society didn't do enough for him, no, it's kind of different from that. It's actually saying liberalism, this quote-unquote culture that we enjoy, supposedly, has uniquely enabled single mothers to abuse their children. And this is a point that he's never going to get back to. Spoiler alert, he never really addresses these points. In fact, when we go through this video, the only substantive claim he makes that isn't just this sort of sophistic bullshit and these emotional manipulations, the only actual thing he talks about or references is the debate between Destiny and Lauren Southern.
Destiny debated Lauren Southern on immigration. And needless to say, he destroyed her. I mean, he mopped the floor with her. And Lauren Southern was someone that was well respected in her community. She was someone that had very close ties to even Stefan. And she just looked like a complete idiot. And not only that, but Destiny completely dunked on her and just embarrassed her. And I liked his style. I liked the way he did that. It was entertaining, and I bought into it. I don't even say I bought into it. It was impressive, but it was also terrifying. It was very terrifying because how could I be so wrong? How could I be so wrong? I mean, he pulled up all this data and statistics, and all Lauren had was appeals to emotions, and she would throw up stats, and then he would go through and explain why that's taken out of context and that's wrong, and she's not looking at the data correctly, and she's manipulating the data to spin a narrative. And I started to get privy to how these messages went across, and I listened to Destiny more and more. But during this time period, I was still skeptical to Destiny.
That becomes his turning point. He says this was the turning point where his entire view changed and he realized he was so wrong. But he doesn't actually give us any real points or any real back and forth from that debate. He just says that was what opened his eyes. And then he said later on ContraPoints videos just opened his eyes.
I came across another YouTuber called ContraPoints. And Natalie, I mean, I had this aversion to her at first because I had all these goofy ideas about trans people. But Natalie, she spoke to me. She spoke my language. She was like one of me. We were about the same age. And
no, ContraPoints is older than you. Like they're like old enough to be like grooming you.
She understood the culture that I was in. She understood the memes. She understood the philosophy. She understood the motivations. And she was able to repeat back to me why I found it so compelling. Whereas when I would talk to most leftists or liberals, they wouldn't know. They would just call me a racist. And to be honest with you, and this is part of the reason I'm making this video, is to help educate people, that didn't work. That pushed me further and further away. The only thing that made me believe was that I'm the red-pilled one, I'm the woke one, and that I'm the one that is willing to deal with these ideas where they're not. And they would just get emotional with me and fight with me, and I wasn't having any of it. So when I watched Contra's videos, she was very just rational and logical and had these good explanations, and I realized how fucking wrong I was.
ContraPoints is fucking smoke and mirrors. There's so little substance in a ContraPoints video, and it's a lot of dancing around with lighting and like making different characters and creating disingenuous straw men. So either this is a guy who is purposefully putting out a narrative designed to appeal to people who just basically run on vapid emotions and are looking at a skin deep surface level version of different argumentation and just want whatever feels the most emotionally useful, which I think is a brilliant, propaganda approach for this kind of NPC left to use. Or he actually is that kind of dim, that this really is where he's at. So I don't know. Either way, I just don't have a lot of sympathy because you were sitting right on a lot of these answers you're looking for, and you're just kind of like moving around, letting reality just fucking happen to you instead of thinking for yourself.
And it all had this sense that it was all connected, and they had clear out groups on who the enemy was and who was reliable. You know, the left, the liberals, the communists. You know, there was always this conspiracy at the gates that the left is trying to take us down. And it seems so plausible because the left does seem to have a domination on things like Hollywood and a lot of the culture. And so these conservatives, they would play it up like they were victims, like their free speech was being taken and their values were being destroyed. And I bought into that rhetoric.
Okay, so you have two choices. You can either debunk the argument and let there be an open marketplace of ideas, or you can slander everybody as fascists and Nazis and use this as a way to justify anti-hate speech laws and things like that cause more censorship on social media platforms in order to shut people up. And it seems like that's what the left is doing. I just saw an article the other day about how Facebook is going to be funneling people from, I guess, white supremacist and white nationalist circles into some new fucking retarded civil rights bullshit. So, you know, when you constantly slander the right as hateful and bigoted and use that as your number one weapon, what else are we left to conclude? Is this not true? Is it not true that it's the left who's engaging in these practices? You know, and you say, oh, they're playing the victim and I fell for the rhetoric. Well, what disillusioned you? You know, give me an actual argument. Tell me where the racist touched you. Like, tell me, like, what happened? Like, there needs to be more. But instead we're just going to get more of this kind of bullshit where all you're doing is implying that anybody to the fucking right of Marx is a racist, and that therefore we need to shut them all down. You're gonna fucking be using ADL statistics and the SPLC and all that kind of bullshit to silence people. So what is it? Are you gonna disprove these people? Are you gonna actually make an argument, or are you going to prove them right by continuing to do what the left has been doing for the past couple of decades, it looks like?
And you know, it happened so fast. You know, I started out as a libertarian, mind you, when I watched Stefan's content. Before that, I was a liberal. But then, as I listened to Stefan, I picked up libertarian ideas, which transitioned into, you know, anarcho-capitalist ideas. But what would happen was I would get to a point where, you know, I wanted the libertarianism because I wanted a free society. But then I realized that, well, we can't have a free society if there isn't social cohesion and there isn't a strong structure to bind us together. And so I slowly found myself turning into a conservative. And the way I like to think of this, it's, you know, I have a slight background in marketing. I like to think of it like a sales funnel. And what a sales funnel does is it takes customers, potential customers, you know, in a broad general sense, and tries to funnel them down to a point where they buy a product. And the funnel acts in two ways. It educates and motivates the buyers that will buy, and it expels the potential customers that won't buy. And this is kind of what this ideology did. And so I started out as a libertarian, and then because I thought that we needed social cohesion, I became a conservative. And then from there, I thought that the conservatives weren't going far enough. You know, we called them cucks. And I started to believe that we needed strong borders and we needed a national identity and we needed to raise the birth rates. And to me, it wasn't necessarily white birth rates. I saw it more as like we needed more intelligent people having children. And then as I started to learn more, as I listened to people like, you know, Jared Taylor or, you know, Molyneux started putting out a lot more race content, talking about race and IQ, talking about the bell curve. And, you know, they use this term called race realism.
Okay, so if at any point you have a disagreement, what's there to prevent you from just retaining your original position and then arguing the point you disagree with? Why is it that, you know, it's this inevitable thing? It's a cone, right? By gravity, he's just being pulled in and pulled in and pulled in. It's like he can't fucking stand up for himself at any point. You know, like he talks about, okay, so maybe we need to have a higher birth rate, and it doesn't matter what the racial makeup is so long as there's a high IQ. Like, why? What are you going to present that shows that that's not a valid position? You need to debunk every single position along the way in order for this narrative you're painting to make any kind of fucking sense. And then later on he goes to a straw man Molyneux saying that, oh, well, there's these immutable race differences that are absolutely have no solution to. It's all based in biological and evolutionary factors having to do with where these people were, et cetera, et cetera. Honestly, that's not even necessarily Molyneux's position, because what's happened is it's been so deeply stigmatized to even bring any of this up that all you need to say is, there tends to be racial IQ trends. There tends to be a trend. That no matter what your explanation for that could be literally anything. And just stating that, just pointing out that's the bar for race realism, right? And you just brush this concept of the left being censorious under the rug like that's completely conspiratorial nonsense. No, like that's why we have this issue. And frankly, that's why you have the New Zealand shooter. Because there's no way to talk about these things. And then you're leaving people with nothing but this one avenue of action, and then combining it with a totally predictable NPC left that's going to act exactly as he wants, and particularly from an accelerationist standpoint, that's very, very useful. So, for as much responsibility as you want to give to people on the right for having positions that might be similar, they might have superficial similarities, they might have certain things in common, it looks like you're not willing to take any responsibility for when the left does this, for when the left enables other sorts of issues. But of course, when there's nuance amongst leftists, that's totally important. That's totally, we should never equivocate, socialism and communism. They're totally fucking different. Libertarian minarchism and communism totally have nothing in common. They're absolutely opposites, right? All the fucking time to deal with that shit. But then when it comes to these issues where you're starting with anarcho-capitalism and then conservatism and then into certain propositions regarding the relationship between race and IQ, like I'm supposed to just believe that this is like an inevitable slippery slope and that nobody engaged with any positions on any part of this has any ability to maintain a stance and defend it and to not completely agree with every single other person. And then you're going to turn around and claim that it's the right that has demonized and otherized their target. I think it's all projection. It's all fucking projection. And again, I don't think this is honest. And if it is honest, it's sad. You admit yourself that, if everything you're saying is true, that like, oh, you were so stupid for believing it. I mean, maybe you're just really stupid now, or maybe you didn't really learn anything. And it's all just been this kind of wishy-washy walking around on a bunch of surface level bullshit.
At the point where I landed, I wouldn't call it full alt-right personally because of a few beliefs that I didn't have. For example, full alt-righters, they believe in the Jewish conspiracy, that they rule the world. I didn't believe that. But so I would consider myself alt-right.
He just happened to land somewhere where he can, claim he has some sort of like insider knowledge in these ideas and how they come about. But of course, clearly the definition apparently of alt-right versus alt-light, it's completely based on what he calls the Jewish conspiracy. It's the JQ, Jewish question. But of course, we're going to quickly sweep that under the rug. And I wonder, have you ever considered why is it we're not going to be elaborating on that? How come we're not going to have that conversation? Do you think it might have to do with the sort of backlash people endure? This sort of censorious liberal, and even, on the right, really all across the board, this tendency to just shut down and demonize people who even ask any question regarding that. Because frankly, since you brought it up, fuck you. Like, I'm going to make sure we talk about this. The most evidence that you find to justify the JQ comes from the responses to the question of it. If there were no water there, if there were absolutely nothing there, I think that people could just laugh at it and it wouldn't be a thing. But it seems that the disproportionate response to anything remotely resembling that is pretty ridiculous. And you know, honestly, I think that any teacher who wants to teach like World War II or Holocaust history, I think they should make the Jewish question a central part of it, because what a fascinating and interesting way to get people interested in the history is to get people to kind of have this adversarial back and forth regarding it. Now, a lot of people, of course, are going to say it shouldn't even be entertained to even, you know, put any level of this out into the rhetoric is like demeaning or whatever, or dangerous. The problem though is that it seems that, you know, just as the bar for race realism, it's been pushed so far that it's really, really quite low. This is also true for the JQ. You're not even allowed to say Jews have a disproportionate amount of influence in certain areas, including banking and the media. Like, you're not allowed to just say that. That's a fact. You know, that's absolutely a fact. And the irony is that race realism actually explains away the JQ to a degree, So, you know, and it's so weird to me that just to even bring up or talk about these ideas is seen as too much. You know, you're not even allowed to say maybe. That's actually one thing that I really was a good takeaway from Jordan Peterson. He says, you're allowed to fucking say maybe. You're allowed to say maybe sometimes. But apparently not for this kid. I don't believe he's ever said maybe. Did you catch that? How he talks about how he landed at that part of this cone, this marketing cone. He landed there. He didn't go there. Right? He bought into ideas, sure. That was an active verb, but eventually he ultimately landed there. It's very passive.
What spurred me to put this video out now was
he's purposefully huffing himself up in order to appear more emotional. It's extremely disingenuous. Okay, Robbie Parker, go on, continue.
Over the weekend, what was the New Zealand shooting? And the reports came across when I was at work. And there's so many shootings nowadays that they hardly affect me anymore.
Yeah, I know. We can tell. Anyone can tell. That's why you're doing that. I mean, it's so transparent.
You know, we have a school shooting, it seems like once a month almost, or there's some Islamic attack, or there's some, you know, white supremacists that send bombs in the mail.
That Hispanic former stripper bankrupt Florida man, that white supremacist.
Or, you know, we live in this sick, fucked up society, but this guy, when I researched him and when I watched the video, he was tuned in. I mean, reading his manifesto, he understood.
Really? So where does accelerationism fit into your weird little cone of ideas where it starts with Molyneux and ends with Hitler? Where's the accelerationist bit of that? Or maybe you do really get it. Maybe that is what you're trying to do here. You're trying to make sure that shooter gets as much of what he wants as possible. Because it seems like that's going to be the effect of a video such as this.
This ideology, he was deep in it. And he was repeating back to me all the things that I believed. And I watched that video and he just murdered those fucking people. They didn't even put up a fight. He just slaughtered them. And then I saw the memes. He was memeing the whole time. And it made me realize that I had shared those same memes. Some of them I shared ironically, you know, because I thought they were ridiculous and I was shit posting, and some of them I saw as spreading my message. And I realized how this wasn't an isolated thing. This wasn't just something that I was going through, that I was influencing the world.
This is the closest we're going to get to the argument, and it's the idea that if you see something and a person maybe intends it in a serious way and you're somewhere that's, I guess, less radicalized, you might say, and then you share it because it's ironic and it's funny, well, when it gets spread around, the intention of the social media impressions doesn't really carry with. I don't know. I don't really think this holds water. It's just like a fucking remix Jack Thompson argument. And I wish there was more here. For how long this fucking video is, I just wish there was a little bit more substance. But I mean, again, he looked up the ContraPoints, so it seems like it's just a lot of acting and a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of bullshit and a lot of emotional manipulation with, again, not a lot of arguments. This whole video has just been a one big fat not an argument.
And not just online with memes, but I would go out into the world and I would try to convince friends and family and girlfriends and God, I almost lost every single friend I had. I had gay friends, black friends, trans friends, and while in my heart I felt like I didn't have anything personally against them, I understood why they got the fuck away from me, because they had to see it, and I realized the part that I played in it, and as small of a part as it was like a little crumb of this poisonous fucking cookie.
So to recap, he has these issues and he's feeling this emptiness and he's looking for purpose in his life and for a solution to these problems, and then he finds it, and because he believes these things, he wants to spread it with the people he cares about, but then their response is to just kind of, it seems like just quietly distance themselves. They can't actually tell him, oh no, here's why you're mistaken, here's why I know better, right? No, they just go, yikes. They just say, yikes, and they just walk away from him. It sounds like, maybe you didn't really have any good friends. It sounds like these girlfriends, these fan members, these friends you're talking about, maybe they're a bunch of assholes, and maybe that's why you're so fucking depressed in the first place, and that's why your fucking mental faculties aren't letting you think critically. And it seems like really what might have happened is they've socially ostracized him to the point where he's just broken down, and now what he wants to do is he wants to kind of backpedal and say, and then take on this new stance of, oh no, now I'm enlightened, now I understand better, please forgive me, right? Just a typical reiteration of this white guilt fucking nonsense. And now he's going to be surrounded by people to pat him on the back and say, oh, thank you for finally admitting what an awful person you were. Thank you for fucking getting back onto the plantation, fucking getting back into your fucking place as a broken down, depressed fucking loser. Meanwhile, none of these people were able to offer a level of argumentation that compares to ContraPoints, to Destiny. Really? That's the circle you're dealing in? I don't know. I'm leaning toward the conspiracy angle of this. I don't think he's genuine. But if he is, it's sad. It's really sad.
And so I couldn't stay silent anymore. I couldn't. I knew that I had to put this out now. I had to put this out now because this is getting out of hand. It's going beyond just memes now. It's going beyond just internet philosophy. It's philosophy. It's going beyond just the exploration of ideas. It's affecting the real world.
Has it ever occurred to you that the things you advocate for government to do through your leftist liberal fucking policies affects people? That taxation is theft and extortion, and that this is something people suffer in silence. And this is, if you go back to that Destiny and Lawrence Southern debate, that's the point that neither of them are willing to acknowledge. There's this big StarCraft metaphor they go back and forth on, and actually Lawrence Southern gets a lot of shit for it. It's not as bad a metaphor as she thinks it is. The whole thing was a little bit silly, though. But, there's a point of it where Destiny's saying, well, what if there's a certain resource on the map we need to get, and this sort of short-term investment benefits us in the long term, and even acknowledges, yeah, there's cost to people along the way, and this is what I fucking hate about the left. And when I say the left, I mean the conservatives, too. I mean the entire political spectrum, everything to the left of me. I despise it. I despise this idea that you're allowed to play a game of fucking civilization with other people's lives. So yeah, nothing's changed. The New Zealand shooting changes nothing. It just makes, for some people and in certain perspectives, it makes it more obvious to them that there are consequences to the things they think, but you're not exempt from this as being a fucking cookie-cutter SJW liberal. Absolutely not. All you've done is switch sides. You've just switched to a team that
has more dominance, basically. And I think that's pathetic. I think you should be looking at things based upon the truth. Not based on whatever's the most emotionally convenient. Because the bottom line is that if you're a leftist and you advocate for any form of taxation, any form of government, you absolutely have no right to judge anyone. You don't get to judge Nazis. In my mind, you're basically all the same. It's just a question of flavor.
And you see the way now, like countries like Poland are becoming ultra nationalist and calling for Islamic genocide. And
you mean that one time there was that one banner for someone calling for that in 2015 that we haven't fucking seen since?
And so I couldn't wait any longer. And as I said earlier, I want to help other people out of this, because this is a dangerous fucking cult. It's a decentralized cult that sucks you in. There's no formal leadership. There's no one giving marching orders, but it's an encompassing philosophy and so many different people down the layers of this, because this isn't just a simple philosophy. Lots of people want to make things just simple and say, oh, the alt-right, they believe this. But no, there's so many other overlapping categories that share these beliefs. And that's another thing I want to help people understand, is how you can listen to Ben Shapiro and hear him talk about how Israel's settlements are justified because Arabs like to live in raw sewage, and how we need to fight back against Islam, and Steven Crowder will talk about feminism or whatever, all these idiots.
So it's guilt by association. I mean, why don't we just extend this all the way to anybody who shares a common understanding of mathematics? Because surely we don't have the ability to carry some propositions without the same conclusions held by people who have similar propositions, right? It just all falls downhill because everybody's just the same as you, and they just don't have an ability to stop at any point.
And they spread this message, and you'll take one piece of that, and that will take you to the next step, and to the next step, and to the next step. And this is how you become radicalized. You don't become radicalized because some Nazi walks up to you and Zeke Hiles and says, hello, would you like to preserve the white race? It doesn't work that way.
This entire idea of this this cone that he's depicted, it's so fucking arbitrary. It's completely fucking arbitrary. You can actually go look at that political trichotomy, and it kind of helps explain how you could create a cone like this from any perspective and say that, well, logically speaking, everything's going to reach this point or that point. And really, it ultimately depends on your values. But, he kind of sees it as an objective thing. And since he's not willing to actually engage with the argument and not really to actually present any real facts, to him it has this sort of inevitable thing. He calls it a decentralized cult. That's an oxymoron. A cult by definition has a strong leader and is extremely authoritarian, and it's extremely, generally, very faith-based. So if it's decentralized, it's practically non-cult-like by definition. I think this is just projection.
And they prey upon your biases, they prey upon your circumstances, they prey upon who you are, they prey upon... Look at me. They prey upon your very identity.
Frankly, it seems like, your master vampire is ContraPoints, who has turned you, and now you want to turn other people into vampires.
I would hear my friends start to repeat things like cultural Marxism and Western civilization, things that you hear Jordan Peterson talk about.
Oh no, not Jordan Peterson.
Someone who's a self-prescribed liberal, or someone like Dave Rubin.
I agree.
And it's just... I can't put up with it anymore.
A liberal that can't tolerate others' ideas? How novel.
And maybe you don't believe me, and that's fine.
I believe you more than I believe Gene Rosin.
I'm not here to just demonize people that we're enemies with. I'm not here to just demonize the alt-right and not explain things.
See, I fucking called it. He's here to otherize and demonize the alt-right. He says he's not just here to do that, but make no mistake, that is something that is on the fucking agenda. You know, he even refers to them unironically as his enemies. And this is something that you understand as soon as you look into this concept of the threat narratives. What people do is they package their aggressions as retaliations in order to justify their initiations of violence, because everybody is a secret libertarian, and that's why we see this pattern again and again and again. And this is why leftists are so fucking smug, and why they don't see any problem with all the things that they do, and why they're never the fucking bigger man. They're always retaliating against evil, and that's why evil has to become this more and more amorphous and more just horribly defined thing. That's all he's doing in this video, is he's basically linking together every single argument that he doesn't like in order to say that they're essentially all the same, that these differences don't make a difference, so that they can be censored and shut down. Because if you're a Nazi to the Nazis, it doesn't count as being a Nazi. That's basically the equation.
You know, one of my best friends through all this is black.
Yet the idea that something like feminism or single motherhood could have disproportionately hurt them or had an influence on their circumstances, that was completely missed on you. Because you know so much about anti-feminism and you listen to so much Molyneux.
And he's had encounters with police, with all these things, and I remember sitting listening to him and I wouldn't believe him. And it's because I bought into this so hard, and so I didn't hate anyone. I thought that I had discovered a truth. You know, that's what the concept of a red pill is. I thought that I had discovered an uncomfortable truth, that I had waken up from the matrix, and that if everyone woke up, that we could build a society that would be great for everyone. And part of that, if it meant that you couldn't come to our country, then so be it. If it meant that I had to ostracize you because of your beliefs, because of your lifestyle, say you were gay and you wanted to get married and have kids, I would ostracize you for that.
As opposed to the totally reasonable and peaceful alternative, which is to have forced association via the government.
On the simple fact that I thought that it would lead to the decay of society and the total breakdown. So this whole thing had an inner logic to it. It was pragmatic. But not only was it pragmatic, but it appealed to the romantic inside of me. It appealed to my desire to want to be strong and powerful, to have my own identity, and to make my own way in life, and to not live like I had lived forever, following other people, as ironic as that is, and being controlled, by my family, by my society, whatever. And so, to have that sense of stability and belonging, I did the most paradoxical thing you can. I gave myself up to others.
I don't think that's changed, and I think that explains why, insofar as this story is true, that you go into this red pill world, but you don't actually understand any of the arguments because you're just following the entire time and you just followed your way out of it. It doesn't seem like you've actually introspected and are actually having a problem with this idea. You're just bringing up the idea in order to demonize the side that you've switched from. I don't think that you're actually applying this consistently.
And I became the follower. And I was brainwashed. And so that's what I'm here on this channel to do.
To brainwash people?
There's other things that I want to talk about on the channel as well. Politics, current events maybe, maybe philosophical ideas. I'd love to have guests on the show.
Debate me.
I'd love to do live streams. I'm also a gamer. Probably one of the demographics that pulled me into this. Most of the people I know that are in this, they're gamers. They play first-person shooters, and we're part of that edgy meme culture, that goes back so long. It goes back, for me at least, to 2008 on 4chan. Back when it wasn't so racist and obvious and taken over by these people, but it was like shit-posting fun that teenagers do.
Hello, fellow gamers. Hello, fellow 4chaners. Hello, fellow teenagers.
And so, yeah, thank you again for watching. This wasn't easy for me to make, And I really hope that I haven't upset anyone or offended anyone or anything like that. That's not my intention. My intention is to come here and to be as honest as possible and to just tell you what I went through and what I believed, as wrong as it was. And maybe my theories on why it happened to me, why I believed it, are wrong still, but I'm just going to tell you what I thought, what I believed, what I experienced. And hopefully that's enough. And hopefully you guys find some value in that. So thank you for watching, and stay safe out there, guys. Keep up the fight, and let's not give up, because there's people out there that are scared and they don't want to believe this, but they are so convinced that they can't believe anything else. So let's reach those people. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. Have a great day. Bye.
All right, everybody. So what do you think? Do you think this guy is some sort of like paid shell, or maybe some of this is genuine? Maybe somewhere kind of in the middle? I don't know. I don't know. But kind of an interesting exercise, just this idea. You know, if there's any meat to this perspective, to the stance that he's presented in this video, you know, surely we'll see some actual arguments. I don't know, maybe the next time he makes a video, I guess.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? So, I know I look like a complete shit right now. I've barely slept in days. I've been so busy. You guys have been reaching out to me, giving me so much fucking love and support. I never expected this, dude. Like, I never expected that all you guys would see this video and you would share it. And now all the fucking clout and all the attention that we're getting to this movement, it's amazing. And we're going to do great things, guys.
What movement? This is like a retarded, cringy version of Walk Away? Like an even more retarded Walk Away? Is this Walk Toward?
I just have a couple of things to say. Sorry for the audio in the background. I had to make this really quick. I'm super swamped today, but I didn't want to wait any longer to update you guys after I saw 50,000 views.
50,000, what?
So real quick, to all my people, the people that have brought me over, the people that have loved me and accepted me, thank you so much. But I know there's a lot of concerns out there. You guys are worried. You guys are worried I'm doing this for money. You're worried that I could be, a plant by the alt-right. I understand that. I understand how these people work, and I understand how the grifters work online. And I don't want to do that to you guys. This is important. I was a fucking nobody before this, and I won't squander this chance. And so to all of you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I'm going to do everything I can to fix it and to move forward.
He will stay on his plantation. He will not be trying to think for himself again. Everything's going to be okay.
And then I just have one more message, and that's to all my old friends at the alt-right. Sorry, guys. I flipped the script on you and totally betrayed you. And I see I'm getting a lot of attention from you guys. I'm not going to name drop here, but I know a lot of you have been watching, and you're upset. And I don't blame you. So also, a lot of you have been reaching out to me and, trying to talk to me. I can see through your trollery, most of you. Some of you are pretty high-level trolls.
Yes, the infamous alt-right and its high-level trolls.
But if you do want to reach out and have a conversation, I'm here and I will listen. I'm not going to dox you. I'm not going to judge your language. I'll listen, okay? And we can just hit me up in the DM or hit me up in the email, and we'll just have a private conversation. No one else will listen. No one else will see your conversation. And we can just talk, and you can ask me questions on what happened to me. And to the more fringe people in the movement, I've been seeing that you guys have noticed my nose. So I guess I couldn't hide it, guys. I'm already found out, right?
You mean I was correct and that you were punched in the face and that's why your nose is like angled at like a weird side?
I just want to give a big shout out to my biggest supporter, my biggest, the people that have been behind me through all of this, that helped me put out the content, that helped me push the movement. So I just want to say hi, Benji, and I just want to say hi to the IDF, and I just wanted to swear allegiance to the Israeli government, And, I can't wait till the cultural Marxist plot, headed up by George Soros to subvert the West is successful, and we can replace the white birth rates. So that's going to be great, guys. But anyway.
Okay, enough of this. Thanks for hanging in there. You guys keep it easy. And see you when I see you. Bye.